Hello, I'm Sora Luxon, and this is Magic Lesson number 50. That's right, 50 little podcast videos already in the Magic Lesson playlist. And it happens to be Valentine's Day too, so let me be the first to say to you, with love, so many blessings of love and light to you on this day. So, for today, we're going to discuss anointing oil because, among other things, it's both wonderful and necessary to know how anointing oil works to use for consecrating all those beautiful Venus love and light candles, which magical practitioners are so popular with on today of all days. Although I might point out, you can light one of those any Friday. Any Freya's Day is going to be a wonderful, lovely day for the use of a love and light candle to Venus. Quick little side note, for the individual who recently asked about the shop's anointing oil, I'm going to be discussing anointing oils in general. But for the person who asked about the Lux Occult Store's anointing oil, I want to say very quickly, no, under no circumstances should you ever consume it. Yes, it is made according to traditional Solomonic specifications. So no, you should never ingest it for any reason. Do not ever swallow true anointing oil, and that goes for everyone. Among other, even more precious occult ingredients, it does contain distilled essential myrrh, which, yes, was used in mummification and embalming processes in ancient Egypt. For, among other reasons, it has antimicrobial, antibacterial properties, and those purify and slow the decay process. Now, that's great for sanctifying purposes, or if you're trying to wrap a mummy, but it's not so great, obviously, for the microbes that are living in your gut, the living gut microbes that are in your tissues and stomach, which shouldn't be killed off since you need them to do things like help digest your food. Purified myrrh does have anti-inflammation properties topically. I know people sometimes say that they find mouthwashes or toothpaste with myrrh, and that's keeping it in your mouth and then spitting it out, right? Again, you're never told to drink it because it is toxic when it's very refined or consumed, especially in quantities over time or in large quantities. In the Western tradition of alchemical magics, we know a little something when it comes to compound, chemical element, herb lore. So trust me on this. No, under no circumstances should you ever swallow authentic anointing oils. I don't care what's ailing you, that is not the cure. Drinking real anointing oil will not help you ever. If you know somebody who has done that or is making the claim that it helped them somehow, it's likely one of two things. Either they didn't do it, and they're not necessarily being honest. Okay, maybe one of three things. Another option is that they're not human, so it didn't harm them because they aren't human and don't need a working stomach. That's incredibly unlikely, obviously. Or third option, much more likely, someone's been selling them olive oil with cinnamon in it. It's this very cheap thing that happens. It's incredibly common practice among disingenuous magic retailers. So although they aren't getting what they're paying for, drinking that isn't likely to hurt them because it isn't the authentic article. It's just olive oil with maybe some other organic elements tossed into it. And so if they decide to drink it, it's not going to outright hurt them. I wouldn't suggest you test that out to find out whether or not your anointing oil is real, because if it is real, it's going to do you great harm. Although, again, I have no idea why anyone would ever want to drink anointing oils. It certainly isn't going to accomplish anything good or useful. It's not how it's meant to be used. So what are you supposed to do with it? To use anointing oil correctly, well, as I mentioned before, one thing anointing oil is used for is anointing candles, especially spellwork candles. Different oils have different purposes in magic. But anointing oil is very often used for dressing candles before candle spell work. Anointing oil is also used for anointing yourself, the magical practitioner, before beginning and working in the great craft. For instance, before entering the temple within my own background, there's a ceremonial bathing process for creating and acknowledging mental and physical purity. And then anointing oils are used to sanctify the self. So the forehead, wrists, ankles, throat, and belly, and then the heels of the feet. And then the ceremonial robe goes on over your birthday suit before entering into the sacred space for magical practice to begin. Now, why? Why are we anointing ourselves or our tools with special anointing oils and sometimes herbs before craft workings or before ritual or ceremonial workings in the craft? Among other things, oil draws our attention to and generates a bridge for entering between the conscious and subconscious plane. It both recognizes the physical plane of manifestation, touching and absorbing into the skin, and then ascending or descending, depending on what oil you're using and what you're using it for, the non-corporal self onto other less immediate planes. Anointing oneself with oil is a symbolic act that spawns a very real effect because the ritual gesture of application and blessing informs the subconscious. It tells your subconscious that you are taking on and becoming the properties you are applying. And it works. Most things that circumvent your conscious mind work, and work incredibly well. Better and faster than any conscious behavior could. But we've been over that and the reasons for that already. If you don't understand what I just said there, go back and listen to some of my earlier lessons, and then you'll come to understand it, what I mean by that. Regardless, the only way to describe what the oil does really is to say it gives you a sort of temperature, glow, mass in other places where you wouldn't otherwise been able to have mass or to have been seen or interacted easily. Sounds horribly confusing. For example, on the astral, for instance, someone who's been dabbed with a good anointing oil, they sort of emanate as an easy to see and interpret individual form. The blessing carried in their skin gives them a brighting, beatific, easy to spot silhouette, whereas someone who hasn't applied sanctification is much less defined, much less able to do things, more like a loose fog of light, dense perhaps, but blurry. Anointing oil codifies the individual in places where they couldn't otherwise have been seen. You see oil used biblically for the same reason. Most baptisms include anointing oils, bringing the individuated body, once named and known by touch and temperament, both into recognition of manifested physical selfdom, while also lifting that same individual into view of that ascended above it or above them, for which its purpose shall henceforth aim for and be protected by. So the physical self and the other self being brought into a union and communion with other planes. Almost every hoodooing or voodooing practitioner I know who knows their business, the genuine articles again, right? They anoint their feet daily or nearly daily before even leaving the house in the morning. They use oil every day. Anointing oils for speed, guidance, safety, to open new paths or clear blocked roads, to keep the soul light, or to make it more grounded. Types of oils and their uses are endless, and some of them are really, really good. Very handy to have around. I can think of 3 celebrities who anoint their feet with oil and even will put some clean dirt in their right shoe before attending fancy award functions, galas, or huge glitzy celebrations. 2, among other things, keep themselves grounded, humble, and gracious in their good fortune. Occultists were everywhere, right? You wouldn't believe if I told you some of the people who have anointing oil on the heels of their feet while you're talking to them. And of course, the most useful and most common basic but essential purifying type anointing oil is used for cleansing and sanctifying the energetic signatures of our ritual tools, like how we anoint the athame, sword, wand, and grill with salt and oil by 3 tera, crossed before using those in ceremony, sanctifying new temple spaces ahead of their constant and common daily censer and water cleansings, and candles for constant and common spells, so that again, the energetic signature is cleansed and then applied in the way we wish, while also, much like self-anointing or baptism, makes the candle present and functioning on more than just the earthly plane. Spell work candles to surround yourself and those around you with generous light and love harmony. They need their flame to be visible, not just here where you see it physically, but where the principal source of that benediction and invocation can see it and be drawn to that light as well. It can't work nearly as well if the powers you're looking to bring about can't see the candle to hone in on it in the first place. And anointing oil allows for that. So yes, always dedicate, dress, and anoint your spellwork candles with sacred oil, just as you would dedicate, dress, and anoint yourself before entering into hallowed practices. Until next time.